So today we are continuing with our series with a focus on Eastern Europe, and we're delighted to have fresh back from Moscow Dr. John Bernbaum, who is the president of the Russian American Institute. And he's here to give us an update on some of the exciting things that are happening there and with the Russian American Institute. So John, why don't you just go ahead and come in here and
Great.
get you going.
Thank you. I miss you folks. I used to be in wrestling, been wrestlers for years, but this past year they've asked me to co-host the new class on the drama of worship. So I've been co-hosting that class and haven't been in wrestlers as a result of that. But it's nice on Sunday morning that we actually have some choices on Sunday morning in terms of Sunday school classes. So the CE program is starting to develop here, and I'm excited about that. But I can't be in two places at the same time. But I've missed you. I want to begin with a personal note. My name is John A. Bernbaum. German name, but many of you who know me know that I'm 3/4 Italian. The German part came from my father's father, but my mother was Maria Monaco from Sicily, and my dad's mother was also Italian. So I'm 3/4 Italian. And you can tell that by my middle name, which is A for Anthony. John Anthony Bernbaum. But I thought a number of times that I needed to change my middle name. Again, if you know my family history, you know that in 1974, Marge and I inherited a second family through a death of a sister and brother, Marge's sister and our brother-in-law. We inherited 6 additional children. We had 2, and Marge was pregnant with our 3rd when Marilyn died, and then 9 months later, our brother-in-law died. And so we were given 6 additional children and a French poodle. So we had 9 children, 7 under the age of 13 for a period of time. And I oftentimes thought that I really needed to change my middle name from Anthony to Abraham. Because I'm a father of nations. I've got 9 kids, I've got 14 grandkids, I got a mob. And when we have a family reunion, we have 34 people show up in our immediate family. So it's quite a complex. But there's a second reason I thought about changing my name to Abraham. And that is, I've oftentimes thought about the fact that for the last 22 years, like Abraham, I started in which was the west side of Chicago, leaving, not knowing where I was going, and I've headed off to Russia for 22 years, had no idea, it was not part of the Bernbaum strategic plan. But I've been following God's call to Russia, and it's been an unbelievable roller coaster ride. Never in my life have I been involved in anything as complex as this. I'm also a historian, so I've enjoyed the experience because it's been an incredible historical experience to see this country try and work its way out of communism. But it's also been a phenomena that you never know from week to week, month to month, what lies ahead in this place. And so it's been a ministry where we've absolutely had to be completely flexible. And I had an intuitive sense about that. I did a PhD in Russian history about 1,000 years ago, back in 1972. Walked away from it for about 20 years, and then this opportunity came to go to Russia, and I brought all this stuff back. And I knew enough about Russia to realize that we had to be absolutely flexible. We thought we had an idea to build a faith-based liberal arts college there. That's what we were invited to do in 1990. But the ground keeps moving. What was a warm, hospitable, come in from America and help us redo our educational system in the 1990s turned into a very hostile environment under the current president, making life very difficult for Americans who are trying to do work in education. So that's just one little illustration of how the ground keeps moving. And I told Paul, in fact, I think I mentioned this last time I gave a briefing here in Wrestlers, that one of my favorite biblical passages that has helped me this year a great deal is Psalm 32:8. There's a passage in Psalm 32:8 where God says to David, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. And then the King James Version takes the second part of the verse and it says, and I will guide you with my eye. That verse came to me because Peter Deinicke, who was the fellow who introduced me to Russian ministries in the 1990s and got Marge and I to go there the first couple of times, used to pray that with me when he used to come to Moscow and visit. We'd meet together, and almost every time we met together, we'd have a time of prayer together, and he would wind up his prayer by saying, and Lord, you promised you would guide us with your eye. I kept thinking, what in the world does that mean? I have no idea what that means. But I'm glad Peter prays that. Well, Peter's been dead now for a number of years, but that verse came back to me when we decided to close down our school, or suspend the undergraduate program in November of 2010. And I thought to myself, what in the world is going on? I spent 14 years of my life trying to build this school, and now the Board of Trustees said, suspend the undergraduate program. We can't keep doing this. But then, to our great surprise, they said, but we have a ministry here. You go find out what it is, John. That's your job. We're not leaving Russia. We're suspending the undergraduate program, but now you need to find out what that ministry is. So that's been the journey that I've been on now for the last year and a half. And this verse has been very, very helpful to me, because there are so many times when I get up in the morning and I go, I have no idea where we're going with this school. I don't know what our ministry is going to be. But Lord, you have promised you're going to guide me and instruct me in the way I should go. And I'm going to claim that promise. Otherwise, I'm totally confused. So it's been a great spiritual journey, friends. And I think we got some good news to talk to you about today. Now, I wanted to begin by talking about the context here. Now, Paul, just click on the triangle. Yeah. I want to show you. I want to show you a little video. Thank you, YouTube.
It's being called Russia's political awakening, and it's happening on a massive scale. For the first time in years, people are out in force to challenge the country's leaders. Until parliamentary elections earlier this month, many here had never even been to a protest. Now, together in the biting cold, communists and nationalists, professionals, pensioners and students. This is the first time that people have felt that they are strong. It seems to me that this is a psychological change. There's not the feeling anymore that there are a few of us and many of them. I believe these people are active, successful people. They need to use the internet not only for preparing these types of events and to organize themselves, but also to propose an alternative to the people in power.
It doesn't bother me that there are so many people from different political groups, because we're all here for the same reason: for fair elections, freedom of speech and justice. We're standing up for the Russian Constitution.
They're here to challenge the results of an election they say was rigged in favor of the pro-Kremlin United Russia Party. They want the results cancelled. Others say it's time for leaders like Prime Minister Vladimir Putin to step aside and make way for a new face. But for most, the demands are much, much simpler. People are calling for dignity and justice, and leaders who are answerable to the Russian people. It's discontent on a scale the Kremlin can't ignore, and it looks like it could be just the start. In 3 months' time, Russia will hold a leadership election where Putin's likely to return to the Kremlin as president. People fear the vote's already been determined. They're ready to keep on challenging any signs of unfairness. They're daring to believe that change is possible. Well, Russia ends 2011 very differently to how it started the year, with what looks like a unified political opposition. Many are already saying that this is very much the start of things to come. Need Barker, Al Jazeera, Moscow.
How about turn this off, Paul? Yeah, too wood. Well, that's just a little illustration of the changing context in which we have to operate. I want you to know, almost nobody saw these demonstrations coming. In fact, when the first demonstration took place in early December, there was a meeting here in Washington, D.C. of the AAASS, American Association of Slavic Studies, which is the premier group of Russian scholars in the country.
Is there any sense that it could become a national policy center? There are some institutes do policy planning. And is there a way, as you're trying to look at the 30-year-olds, to trying to make a difference, to find an area of overlap between what the government's trying to achieve and what the younger people are trying to achieve? And it could be in some non-political, so the things like orphan or training or hope or community, where there's an overlap. Is there some where you move to kind of a policy judgment?
Yeah.
You may not implement it, but you have the network to kind of raise those issues.
That's a very good thought, Cyril. That really came to me when we began to move into this orphan care area, because there are two areas that I mentioned are areas where our people, our faculty now, have designed curriculum that could be very valuable if the government's going to license people in these two areas. We already have curriculum. The people we brought on our team already have developed the curriculum in those fields. And we're saying, you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. This curriculum has been tried and used for a number of years. If you want to certify orphan care employees, here's a package. And we can do another package. And same thing with the parents. So for the first time, it dawned on me, this may be an opportunity for us to go to the government. We're already talking to them about saying, folks, we got some programs here. You want a license in this area, we can work with you on this. We can do certificates in this program and so forth. So it's opening up that opportunity. I'm wondering if there may be some other opportunities in the business area, which I'm going to get to in a minute. So let me move on if I can. These are the programs we've got going right now, which are, I think, are very encouraging. And so we'll see where the Lord leads in these things. But the last area, the other area that we had talked about a lot, is having an impact on the marketplace in Moscow. A lot of our trustees are business people, and they have for a long time had a passion to really impact the Russian marketplace, to bring integrity to the marketplace. It's a profoundly corrupt environment. And so in addition to the humanitarian program, the social work program, I think a lot of our trustees have also felt that it would be important for us to get our business program back up and running in some form or another. And we wondered if we could take the model of the social work program that took off by doing a number of short-term seminars, building credibility. People started coming back to the school and saying, those are good seminars, could we do some more? Could we do the same thing in the business area? The opportunity that's new to us is our emerging relationship with the Russian Orthodox Church, a friendship that we've developed now for the last year and a half. It's moving very, very slowly forward. But it continues to be a very significant opportunity for us right now. I think I mentioned to you before, last time I was with you, the number 2 man in the Russian Orthodox Church, Metropolitan Hilarion, has become a personal friend of ours. He's the Secretary of State of the Russian Orthodox Church and a very powerful individual in his early 40s, an amazing, amazing guy. And he's become a friend of ours. And you may remember that in February, he came to the United States for 10 days, and it was past February. And he asked us to arrange his schedule for him for 10 days. And so one of the trustees of the Institute and I worked together and put together a schedule for him in New York, and in Washington, D.C., and in Dallas, Texas. And I traveled with this man for 10 days. It was a rather remarkable experience. He's coming back to the United States twice this year. And once again has asked us, are you willing to help work with me? And I want to meet American evangelical leaders. Because I believe conservative Catholics and Orthodox and evangelicals can form a partnership to deal with secularization in both of our cultures. And so I want to reach out to these people. Do you know those folks? And I said, yeah, I think I do. We can do some of that. So he's going to the West Coast, for example, in October. And so now we're talking about the possibility of visiting the Fuller Seminary, for example, and a couple other places. So we'll see what that turns into. But now he has this idea that he wants to form an alliance with Gideons and put a Bible into every hotel and every prison and every military base across the country. So he's come to us and said, can you help us? Who are these? Help us work with the Gideons. We want to work with the Gideons because they're evangelicals. And they would be good partners for us. And so right now we're quietly building some bridges. And now that's not going to be a Russian-American Institute project. That's something we do on the side. because it may deepen our relationship with the Metropolitan, but if we could begin to do things like this, that would be a very positive thing as well. And then, for example, on February 24, one of my trustees is going to help host with Hilaria a meeting of about 25 to 30 Russian CEOs, business leaders, to meet with the Metropolitan, to talk about faith in the marketplace. And we are coming to that meeting with a proposal to form a Russian Christian Business Leaders Forum. This is now the 4th time this group has met. And we're thinking if they could organize a forum of some kind, an association of business leaders who are Catholic and Protestant and Orthodox, but are interested in talking about faith issues, that would be an extraordinary step forward. There's nothing like that in Russia. Yeah, we got all kinds of Christian business associations here, Trinity Forum, and C.S. Lewis Institute, all kinds of stuff. In Moscow, zero, if you're a person of faith in the marketplace. So Bob Forsman, one of my trustees, is working on this project, and we're thinking if that group of business leaders ever got together, and if they were interested in talking about some of these issues, we could provide some educational pieces. We could bring in some business leaders to talk to them. We could provide some education training for their employees and so forth. So I don't know if it's going to happen in my lifetime. Orthodox Church moves very slowly. I've been told that about 10 times in the last 3 weeks. Just relax, Bernbaum. My typewriter personality, I want to get it done next 2 weeks if I can. But I realize that we have to wait a while to see if this thing is going to open up. But that could be an extraordinary opportunity. So that's a program that's not developed, but potentially could be a very significant one in the life of our ministry.
John, you use the expression faith in the marketplace, and that brings to mind a certain member of Mrs. Thatcher's cabinet who taught at the London School of Economics, who's a Christian friend of both of ours, Brian Griffiths.
What's his name?
Brian Griffiths.
Oh, yeah.
And have you thought about bringing in the Brits? Do you want to get that international or not? Is that an issue by itself?
Yeah. I've actually talked to Brian about this.
Yes. Oh, good. Good.
Yeah, I went to London a couple of years ago and had the joy of having him take me on a guided tour through the House of Lords, which was a lot of fun. He said to me 2 years ago, if you open up a program in this area, I'd like to come.
You'd be the man.
But we have not been able to move substantially forward on that, so I haven't been able to create an environment that would allow him to come. Obviously, if you bring a British lord to Moscow, it can't be in a Motel 7. It's going to have to be in a significant context, and we haven't had the opportunity to do that yet.
The way I would do it is to have a symposium about the Allies of the Second World War. That means you can invite the Brits, you can invite Americans, you bring the Russians in, and it gives you an umbrella. Yeah, there are a number of other opportunities there. I told Bob Forsman, who's running this, who's working with the Metropolitan about this business forum, I told him my job is going to be a backstop you. I'm not there all the time. You are. But I'm a networker. That's what I do. That's what my job is, network. And we know a lot of Christian business leaders who would be willing to come and be a part of this whole thing. For example, Steve Reineman, who's a former CEO of Pepsi-Cola, used to go to Fourth Church. He's a friend of ours. He's now the dean of the School of Business at Wake Forest. And I've been talking to Steve, and I'm thinking, bring Steve Reineman, former head of Pepsi. They're big time in Russia. If we could bring Steve in and have Steve talk about how his faith has impacted the way he thinks about business throughout his career, it could be substantial. So we have those contacts if the Metropolitan would be interested. So we're going to see what happens as we move forward on this. So anyway, that's the overview. Any more detail when you want it, friends, but that's kind of where we're going.